We're going to take you on a journey.
Look, to be honest, there was 2 days I laid on my bathroom floor.
I can't believe I'm crying already.
So I can't imagine the grief of a parent who loses a child.
And you be the greatest version of you, then I feel like my work is done.
Hi, I'm Tam Wrigley and welcome to the Beyond Beautiful journey. Today on Beyond Beautiful, we have a young adult who has gone from being a media mogul to now being known as Miss Monogram. She has won Young Businesswoman of the Year, but besides all the glitz and the glamour and putting herself out there in the spotlight, she suffers from anxiety, depression, self-worth and self-doubt. Today on the couch, we have the amazing Natalie Tink. Welcome, Nat. Nat Tink, welcome to the couch.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm very excited about having you on the couch. Now, you and I have been friends for a very long time.
We have.
But I want to get into a conversation with you about you. Because we all see the Nat Tink in the spotlight, and you know, you've gone from a media mogul to Miss Monogram and everything in between. But I want to get in a bit deep with you. And we're going to start off with you and your upbringing.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about how you were brought up and what got you to where you are today.
I was raised by monkeys. No, so a lot of people don't know, I was actually brought up in the UK. So I was born in Watford, moved to Lincoln, and as silly as it sounds, I do still think of myself as a British girl, hence my little London. And so I was brought up by my mum and my dad, had a little sister Sophie, a couple of years between us. We lived in the UK, I guess, we probably left when Sophie was in nappy, so I would have been 4. And then we moved to Sydney. And when we moved to Sydney, my mum and dad split up pretty much quickly, like very, very much straight away. So my mum was an only child. My dad was an only child. Here we are in Australia, no family, in Sydney, no intentions of going back because they would have parents obviously to answer to. So we stayed in Sydney. My dad worked overseas, and my mum brought us up in Sydney for a little while until she met my stepdad. And then we moved to the Sunshine Coast, and then I did all my schooling here on the coast. So
You were quite young when you started Coast to Coast Media, which was your media company or your newspaper or was it magazine?
Yep.
Tell us how you got into that realm, or was it something that you always wanted to do?
No, well, yes and no. So I love to sell and I love to talk to people, and then it's crazy, because I had been back to the UK for my grandmother's funeral, and all I wanted to do was go back. I was there, and it felt like home. It was crazy because I'd been brought up in Australia, but being back in the UK did feel where I was meant to be. And I needed money. So I came back, I took an advert in the newspaper. It was for telemarketing, had no idea what that was, but it was the only job I could see. Rang, had an interview, and went in for my trial, and the job was nothing like I thought it would be, but I knew I could make money out of it. And 3 months in, and I was still there after I said I'd make money and get out, and it just fired me up. I loved it.
What did you love about it?
I loved the control of being able to pick up that phone and somebody not knowing me, but just hearing my voice and taking them from no, I am not wanting to advertise to how many months can you sign me up for. So it was a power thing, I think, and it was I love praise. So it was this praise. I'd walked into this job as a 17-year-old girl. Most of the people that worked there were 40, 50 years old, and here I come in, this probably cheeky little firecracker, and it was just knocking every sales target they gave me. I was just blitzing it. So I loved it. I mean, the environment wasn't great. It was like a pretty crappy office, and the surroundings weren't wonderful, but I loved it. Yeah.
And then you bought it.
I did.
And made it into your own. You bought it with a friend at the time.
Yep.
And you grew it to be one of the leading real estate magazines in the country.
Yep.
Which must have been pretty awesome. How did you get from being 17, being a telemarketer, to now owning this national magazine?
Well, at 20, I was poached by the Weekender, and they offered me a really great role, and I said yes to that role. And at the time, I didn't really know my worth. I had no idea that there was 25 staff, and I was bringing in 3/4 of the income. So me walking out the door, I knew it would impact them, but I didn't really know how much it would impact them. So they quickly offered me a partnership, which, having left school in year 9 and no education and left home at 15, I mean, you don't get offered a partnership at 20 when you're not educated.
Yeah.
So I took that, thinking, well, we'll find a way to make that work. And you know, I was doing it with my best friend, so it made sense that we would do that. The scary part about that was, what a lot of people don't know is the company was very close to bankruptcy. We were literally weeks of going into full bankruptcy. So when I said yes to that, I knew I was going to be working my guts out, and we turned it around in 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you left home at 15. That must have been pretty scary and daunting, because I've got a 15-year-old now, and I can't imagine her going out there into the wide world. Tell us a bit about that experience and how you coped and how you got through that.
It's funny, I get chills a little bit because Cooper's 10, so you think 15, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
But at the time, I felt like it was my only choice. I needed to move out of home. My home wasn't the happiest of homes. Grew up with a mum who was mentally ill for all of my life, suffered from extreme bipolar and depression. And that's hard. It's very, very hard to grow up in that environment. We butted heads a lot, very different people, and also very much the same in a lot of ways. And I just was so unhappy, and I knew what I wanted in life. I had no idea how I was going to get it, but I knew I had to move out. I mean, I'm so grateful, because honestly, nothing awful, really awful happened to me, and it could have.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you, I guess, mature and grow as a person at the age of 15? I mean, we look at 15-year-olds now, you know, and they've got a lot to learn on life.
Yeah.
To have to be thrown into adulthood at 15 must have been extraordinary.
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. I don't regret it. I'm so grateful, but there was definitely a lot of things put in front of me that shouldn't have been at 15. And I probably was the most hardworking 15-year-old you'd ever know, because it wasn't an option for me to go into share accommodation. I've always been very conscious of always being very safe, so not putting myself in a really unsafe situation. So I paid huge rent to stay in an environment that was safe. Therefore, I had to work really hard. I used to have to catch a bus that took me 2 hours to get to work. And
I was going to say, who employs a 15-year-old? Like, how did you get to that point of walking in somewhere and going, I need a job at 15?
Well, one of the like turning points in my life, and this is probably also what helped me move out. At 15, I just was showing no signs of being academic. I was the girl who came to work to school every day
for the social aspect.
For the social aspect, loved all the teachers, knew everything about the teachers, and loved, you know, but it was in one ear and out the other. I mean, you know, academically, I just wasn't that person. And one of the teachers, Mrs. Allen, she came to me at 15 and she said, you know, this isn't really working. And, you know, but I do see something in you, and we want to send you to business college. And they sent me to business college, and it was funded by the government, and it changed my life, because the truth is it gave me enough. I was still, you know, academically not there. All the other kids in this business college were getting it.
Yep.
And I'm like, I like the computers here. You know, like it just wasn't, it was still not.
I like the sound of my fingernails make when I hit the keyboard.
And I used to get to wear a lovely outfit, and, you know, I felt the part. It just still wasn't sinking in. But I went to this, they sent me to an interview when I graduated to a legal office. And I walked in there and he said to me, you know, we've had hundreds of applicants for this role and you're one of our last ones, and why should we give you the job? And honestly, I don't know what I said, but they gave me the job. Wow. Probably the worst decision they made. I was awful at filing, I was awful at answering the phone, but they taught me the fundamentals of it. Like, he was a hard boss, and he set me up for for life. Hated it at the time, but so grateful now.
It's like one of those things, like your parents, you know, like they're really hard on you when you're younger and you think, oh, I hate my mum and I hate my dad. But then like you look when you're 30 and 40 going, I'm really glad that they did that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was brutal, brutal. He did not care about feelings. But yeah, I've never forgot the lessons that he taught me. And you know, like I said, I used to commute every single day to his office for 2 hours because who else was going to give me a job at 15? Like it just wasn't going to happen. So
you touched on that. Your mum obviously had mental health issues. Did you ever get fearful that you would inherit that and bring that into your life?
The truth is, I have always known myself that there's things with me that other people don't have. I'm an overthinker. I could literally take one thing and by the end of the day I've turned it into this huge thing. So I'm an overthinker, but I'm probably an overcarer, and I was overly sensitive, and there's definitely things I noticed in me growing up that other kids didn't have, and I probably noticed more when I had my own kids how extreme things actually probably were, not only with me, but I also look back and I can look at how I was brought up and go, okay, well,
that's not normal.
That's not how it's going to be in my house. You know, I'm sure she tried her best, her absolute best. I firmly believe that, but yeah, it's not until you have your own babies it puts it into perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We mentioned that, you know, you are Nat Tink. You've had Coast to Coast Media for probably, I think, 20 years, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Close to 20 years.
Yep.
And then you sold it and gave it all up and you started a brand new startup, Miss Monogram. And you dived straight into the business sense of that. Tell us what was it about that wanted you to leave Coast to Coast, which was a thriving business, and start from scratch?
Yeah. Well, the truth is, you know, most people who are in the role that I was in, the lifespan's 5 years. And if you've done 5 years, you're like, whoa, 5 years. You know, 20 years was a lot. I dealt with a lot of staff during that time, and marketing. We weren't just in marketing, we were in real estate. So real estate's ebbs and flows, as you know. And it got to the point where I just felt like I didn't love it anymore. I'd had my second child, had Lundy, and once I'd had her, there was no passion, and I knew we needed to get out, we needed to do something. But I just didn't know what, and I don't know, to be honest with you, I did feel like the 15-year-old who got who's going to want me? Like, what are we going to do? I knew we had to.
What's your purpose? Yeah.
Well, I don't have a resume. You know, I went from, you know, doing all the little jobs you do as a teenager and the office to Coast to now. So who would you? I just felt unemployable. Yeah.
So Miss Monogram it's now in its second year, and I think the stats is about like 87% of small businesses fail like in the first 5 years. You have just managed to start a business from scratch in a very tough economic climate and make this now one of the national monogramming businesses. So tell us how inspiring that is, or what gets you out of bed to do that every day?
I'll tell you what, like. And people used to say to me, find something you love and get paid to do it. And I used to think, what a load of rubbish. That's not reality. Like, that's great, but it's not real. But it is real. Like, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong. There's days where I'm crying and there's things that are hard. But it's not a chore to get out of bed. I love it. I love what I do. When I'm sitting in my office and I'm speaking to my online customers and I'm organising the next project, I love it. You have to peel me away from it. And even with having the shop, retail's a hard gig. It is a hard gig, but to see someone when they pick up one of our products and it's got their name on it and they're so excited, it never gets old. It really doesn't get old.
If you could go back and give your 15-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
Well, now we'll cry. I would probably say, that was like 15, I would say, you'll be okay. I can't believe I'm crying already. I would say that you'll be okay, you're not your past. you will meet a man who will change it all, but you'll change it all for yourself as well. And that you will have 2 beautiful babies because that's what you deserve. I think 15 was my hardest age. And I say to my husband all the time, you know, being a teenage girl is hard. It is so hard. 15 is such a hard age. And I wish I knew at 15 what I know now, that it would all be okay and it would all be worth it. But yeah, I would say it will all be worth it. Just keep head down, bum up, and just keep on ploughing because you'll be okay.
I think 15-year-olds have it harder in our day and age too, because when we were 15, there wasn't social media.
No.
There wasn't this life that you see on social media that is actually not, you know, it's not reality. And it's like girls can't switch off, or even people can't switch off, because they go to school and they're dealing with stuff at school. And when they come home, they're still dealing with stuff at home because they're seeing it on social media, on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever it is. There's no disconnect from bullying, harassment, or, you know, life, because it's all there. So
I don't know how they do. The truth is I dealt with all that without, you know, having to, and I think it's constantly, they get into bed and they're wondering what's going on Facebook or Instagram, and they do. They do. You know, Cooper's already asking me for a phone and he's 10, and with the amount of customers that we serve in the shop for phone cases, and they're like 8 and they have a mobile phone. You think, wow, you know, so it's going to be hard to disconnect them from that. But I'll tell you, with my kids, I will always remember what it's like to be 15. I will not discount their feelings or anything that they're going through, because it is such a tough age.
You come across as being a very strong human.
Oh, I'm very strong, very strong.
In the general public, but most people don't know about you is that you suffer from anxiety.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how that affects your life.
So everyone has anxiety in different ways. For me, it's episodes. So it hit me as I was driving here today that I have, it's ended. It's ended.
Because you're coming on here.
I know. And you know, but I was in Bali. When was I in Bali? The end of February. So what are we now? April. And so I've had episodes of it that they can last all day. They can just come out of nowhere.
What do you feel like when you get anxiety? What's your physical feeling?
Edgy beyond belief, like edgy, and my heart is beating 100 beats a minute. It's just non-stop. Do you know, the truth is I've spoken in front of 300 people while having a full anxiety attack, and there is not a single person in the room that would know. My form of anxiety, so my doctor tells me, is one of the worst kinds, because what it actually does is, instead of going into a full attack, which some people do, I have the ability to hold it in, and what that actually does is I can start getting other health issues, and it's all triggered from that anxiety. And I have a real pattern now. I can't tell when it's going to come on or how long it will last, but I know when it's going to start to end, because I go from being incredibly anxious and edgy to I cut the entire world off and I hibernate. And that's actually worse sometimes than going through the anxiety, because the anxiety, I'm going and I'm putting myself out there, and it's all internal. But when I hit that point where it's the hibernation, and it's a terrible habit to break that I'm really trying hard to work on.
Why do you think though that you would get, like, we look at you and we think, oh my God, you know, she does speak in front of hundreds of people. You're always out there. You've won, you know, Young Businesswoman of the Year, and you've had your media company. Why? You're so beautiful, and you know, it's just like, why why do you think you get anxiety?
The sad part is, I truly do think it's part of your makeup. I really, truly do. I've noticed a few little things with my little girl, and one part of me wants to shut them out, and the other part of me has really got my eyes open, and I think it is part of your makeup. I've been on medication for it when it was at its most extreme, and the medication just dulls it for me. It's still present, it's still there, it's just dull. But then it dulls out other parts of your personality, which is, to be honest with you, for me, I'm finding I'm better off to be unmedicated because the medication just shuts me, it makes me cold in every other area of my life. So, but yeah, I actually really do think it's part of your makeup.
I find, in life, we all have challenges, I guess, in business and in life. I mean, we've touched on the 15-year-old self, but...
Let's not ask that question again.
What have been some other challenges that you've faced that have got you here today?
Listen, I think having the family situation that I've had, you do tend to cling on to other things. So I cling pretty hard. When I open my heart up, I don't just throw my love around, but when I do open my heart up, I break really easily. So, and I break hard. So, when my business partner and I, when we parted ways at the end of our partnership, I mean, she was my family, so that was incredibly hard.
I guess for you, because you don't have your family, let's be honest, it's pretty much you're an orphan.
Yeah.
You, I think, cherish your friends in a way that they become your family. So when one of them breaks your heart, it is devastating.
Oh, and it's sort of, you relive everything all over again. So I mean, I'm learning too that we create our own family, because I think that's so important. I mean, I've got some beautiful friends, in my life, and you watch each other go through your milestones. But I think that the biggest challenges that I've learned is I just need to stop being so damn trusting. Like I wouldn't say I'm gullible, but I'm incredibly trusting. And if I love you, I'll give you everything that I've got and more. And I'm learning that that's not always the right way to be.
Yeah.
And also navigating through trying to, Brad and I work together, so we're about to celebrate 12 years of marriage, 18 years together, and our biggest challenge, I think, is to make it all work.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people look at us and think, oh, you guys have got it all together, but we so don't have it together.
It would have to be, I think, one of the hardest things is working with your spouse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It puts a lot of stress and, again, probably anxiety on a relationship, because you're working with them at home and, and at work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's but I mean, by the same token, I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. But
and Miss Monogram is, as we said, it's 2 years in now, and it's kicking so many goals. Where do you see it going?
Well, the truth is, someone asked me that question the other day, and I said, I just don't have that part of the brain that thinks things aren't possible. Like the truth is, there's no limit to what I think we can achieve with Miss Monogram. We'll definitely be opening another retail store. The Sunshine Plaza has become our residence, and that's worked incredibly well. It's been well received. We've got some really exciting things that we're working on with the website, and we definitely want to launch overseas. So we've got some exciting projects, but the truth is, it's so exciting being in this phase, because everything's exciting that comes our way, and it's all new, and yeah, it's amazing what has happened in just 2 short years.
Have you got any regrets?
I don't know. I don't know if the truth is, on the hard days, you certainly regret a lot of things. And after we sold Coast to Coast, that was really, I mourned that business. I was ready to leave, but 20 years of it was hard. So there was days where I regretted I've given so much and I've done so much, but I wouldn't be where it is now. So I think, I don't know, I don't live with too many regrets. No. Yeah, just try to be better. Yeah.
Excellent. So Nat, I just want to circle back to you've started Miss Monogram 2 years ago, which is amazing. But there are viewers out there that are looking at starting their own business, but they have that anxiety and that self-doubt about starting. What advice would you give them going forward?
I
I think the biggest thing that I always think about is, what if I don't go forward? Okay, so what does the picture look like if I don't go forward? Now, I am a self-sabotager, but I also, I love to succeed. And I think the biggest thing is you've got to make a change. For me, when I am at my worst, it's throwing myself into something that makes me feel good. And that's hard. That's really hard when you don't feel good and you don't want to do anything. It could be every single day you say, right, I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to get up early in the morning and I'm going to go for that walk, because the truth is that actually does really, the breathing alone helps you with your anxiety. But don't let it hold you back, because the truth is I have watched people in my life be completely held back by depression and anxiety and not push themselves forward for the fear. And the truth is, how much, you know, you can't let it win, and essentially you're fighting yourself. It's like, you know, it's finding a way to take that control back. For some people, it's to go and speak to a counsellor, and I've done many hours of therapy, many. I've done everything from yoga to breathing, and I will never let this win. I will never ever let this one take over. So whatever that solution is, whether it is to go back and to go on to some form of medication, whether it's to get into meditation, I will always keep trying to find a way to not let that win. And that would be the advice that I give as well, is if you have this vision, most people don't have a vision. Yeah. They don't know what they want to do. If you know what you want to do and it's anxiety that's holding you back, you've got to push that bit harder. And you've just got to change just one small thing in your day, just the tiniest thing, and each day will get easier and easier.
Something is like just getting out of the house, or, you know, as you said, going for a walk. It just, that whole getting out of that space changes your mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think it's, and also talking to people about it. I mean, I am so surprised by how many people suffer in silence.
And this is why we sort of wanted to create this show, was that it's that whole of, there is so many beautiful, successful people out in the world, but for some reason we don't want to talk about our issues, because then we feel like we're less than.
Yeah. But when you hear that somebody is suffering from the same thing, I mean, I think I remember always being said, misery loves company. So I always thought it's not good to air your dirty laundry in public. But to sit down with somebody and say, listen, I haven't been good this week, I've been going through this, and then to have that person who 99% of the time will say, I actually know how that feels. You walk back to your car after the coffee and you feel human. You think everyone is going through their stuff, and sometimes you do just need to air it out. I think they said the other day something like 1 in 2 people suffer from some form of mental illness. Like, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So you just got to talk about it, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Have those open and honest conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nat, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
And we hope that your story has inspired others.
Thank you so much, Tam.